Greetings. Today we are going to be discussing dealing with poor grades. So, when dealing with poor grades, always remember that bad grades do not equal low self-worth. Your self-worth and your grades should not be tied in together. You should still see yourself as valuable, even after you may make a grade that you are not pleased with. The first thing you're going to want to do when you receive a grade that you're not pleased with is take a deep breath and reflect. Don't just bypass it. You want to take a moment and learn. Don't be afraid to learn from your mistakes or avoid getting help. Analyze and understand why you received the grades you did and see how to make better use of your class and study time. You want to make sure you're also using answers to previous questions to guide your needed improvements and prevent similar mistakes in the future. So here's some types of poor study habits. This list doesn't contain all poor study habits. Maybe it would be a good idea for you to make your own list of poor study habits, maybe some that you have that may not be on this list. But the ones on this list are completing the easiest assignment first. That's a big one. Most of the time we do that when we study. We do our study our favorite classes first, or we study what we're most interested in first instead of doing the hard stuff first. In reality, you want to do the most difficult stuff first because you're going to be your most fresh at the beginning of your study time, not the end. Studying around loud noises and distractions is another one. If there's a lot going on, you're going to find it harder to focus and concentrate on your class and what you need to study. Studying in a cluttered environment. This is another big one. Anytime your study space is cluttered, that means you have a lot on your mind. This is true not only of study space, but your rooms or places of abode in general. Anytime you have a lot of clutter, that usually means you have a lot on your mind. Letting your thoughts wander is another big one. Just because you're sitting at the desk with the book open does not mean you're studying. Just because you're scrolling through the PowerPoint does not mean you're learning, right? It's very easy to get distracted in your thoughts when you're not doing something you don't really want to do, right? You also want to be careful when studying while tired or hungry. That's very dangerous. You want to just take a break. If you find yourself tired or hungry, just take a break. Come back to it later. You don't have to do it right now. It'd be better off to just take a moment, take a nap, and eat something than to try to force yourself to study. Failing to reflect on the meaning of the assignment. Sometimes I think we get focused on the assignment itself and not the purpose of it. What did your instructor want you to learn from this assignment? Why did they give it to you? Staying up late. This is another big one. For some reason, students and young people feel as if the later you stay up, the better. You can get more done late at night, but you're tired. That's generally when you're at your most fatigued, is late at night, and you're not doing as much studying as you think you are. The last one on this list is another huge one: cramming. Studying, trying to do all the work for one subject in one day, right? Instead of studying for that subject the whole time. So, another thing you want to make sure you are doing is seeking feedback from your instructor, right? Don't be afraid to reach out to your instructor for feedback. Ask them to provide insights on where you went wrong. Ask for details. If something they said does not make sense on your paper or they didn't say something, make sure you ask, get an understanding. The only way you'll make sure you don't make the same mistake again is to learn how you made it to begin with. Make sure to understand the feedback your professor provides. So if something they say is not clear, make sure you get clarity on that. And you want to do this because it shows the professor that you actually care about learning. That's important. So, a little checklist of things to do after receiving a bad grade: remain positive, learn from your mistakes, strengthen your discipline, Consult your professor and get a study buddy. Many times, having someone else in your circle who can hold you accountable for studying and getting your homework done can actually help you to do better in the subject, right? That's a big one. I recommend that. So when you're learning from your mistakes, one of the most valuable lessons that can be learned is how to improve and avoid the same mistakes. Again, use that feedback that we discussed to be a guide for your future assignments. If you struggle with time management, just make a schedule and stick to it. We have another PowerPoint about time management. If that's something you struggle with, go watch that one. If you had trouble understanding the material, seek additional resources or ask the for help from your classmates or instructor. Don't just not understand something and hope that it's not on the exam. If there's anything in your class that you don't understand, make sure you understand it because 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the one thing they're going to test you over. What should you not do when you receive a bad grade? Ignore the issue. Ball the test up and put it in the trash. That's a common one. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. Students getting their test back, not being happy with their grade, and literally throwing the grade in the trash. You can't improve if you don't know what you messed up on. Fixating on failure is another one. Want to make sure we're not fixating on it. The all you can think about is how unsuccessful you were on one test. Always remember, it's just one test or one quiz or one homework assignment. You shouldn't be having multiple of these, one or two, but not multiple. The next thing is getting obsessed with studying. That doesn't necessarily sound like a negative, but it can be. It can be. If you aren't taking time for yourself and your mental health, then you should not, you should be careful with getting obsessed with studying. So make sure to stay positive and motivated. Grades reflect how much you know about a subject. Grades do not reflect anything on you as a student or as an individual, right? So if you make a poor grade, that does not reflect poorly on you, right? Making one or two poor grades. But if you make a lot of poor grades, then that says something else, right? Don't let the setback define your academic journey. Just because you may have had an unsuccessful exam, don't let that dictate the rest of your semester or the rest of your time getting your education. It's just one grade. Surround yourself with supportive friends, family, and or mentors and set attainable goals that you can reach. You want to set small goals on a weekly basis that you can meet that you get so that you get the gratification of being successful. So here's some reasons why students may get bad grades. Focus issues. If you have focus issues, I recommend seeing someone in the disability department, making sure that ADHD or something else is not an issue. If you're struggling with motivation, you need to find your own motivation. Don't try to find motivation in what someone else may want for you. Your motivation has to be very personal. Lacking self-confidence. That's another one. You want to make sure that you are avoiding putting yourself in a position to lack self-confidence. You do this by putting yourself out there in the classroom, asking questions, and doing problems when the opportunity arises, right? You get confidence by proving to yourself that you know what you know. Poor work ethic, procrastination, not sticking to a study schedule, and communication difficulties. Sometimes the issue is merely just communication between the student and the professor about what's expected of them and what they are prepared to do, right? You want to avoid those. You always want to make sure you are taking advantage of resources and support, right? You want to be using the tutoring center, the tutoring services, the writing center, right? Going over your papers and projects, your academic advisors. This includes your academic coaches, things of that nature. You want to make sure you're discussing your matriculation regularly with these people who can hold you accountable in your classes. online service groups and study groups. You want to make sure you're forming solid study groups, not those study groups where you go meet with your friends, you do 30 minutes of homework, and then the other hour and a half you're just hanging out talking. That's not valuable. Remember, everyone makes mistakes. What matters is how you react to them and whether or not you learn from them. Remember to keep things in perspective. Grades are not the sole measure of your intelligence or worth. Don't let a bad grade define your self-worth or destruct your confidence. Remember, your academic journey is a marathon, not a sprint. It's about endurance, not getting finished quickly. You need to embrace the process of learning and don't be too hard on yourself for a single setback. Like I said, most of us have made grades that we weren't happy with. Now, that may be a C for one person, a D for another person, a F for another person. But we've all made grades that we wish we had done better on. So again, remember, one bad grade does not equate to failing the entire course or messing up your entire career. To succeed, you need to focus on your strengths rather than your mistakes. In conclusion, a quote from Miss Brock Chandler from Ashland Community and Technical College in Ashland, Kentucky, reads as follows. Receiving a bad grade can be disappointing, but it is also an opportunity to learn, grow, and come back even stronger. Reflect on your mistakes, seek feedback, learn from them. Stay positive and take advantage of the resources and support available to you.